Welcome to Coffee with the Sarlos. We are your hosts of the show, Karen and Kelly Sarlo. Whether you're struggling with grief or you just need answers, we connect you with spirit to find relief, clarity, and direction in life. We can help you move forward.
Hi, Kelly.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, there was a psychic fair in North Bay.
Yes.
It was a couple of weekends ago, and I decided to go. So, what happened prior to that was for about a month, I had been wanting to connect to my mom, to my mare, and just to see how she was doing since she had crossed over. And just a little bit of background for people that are listening. My mom and I did not have a good relationship. I had not spoken to her very much in the last 10 years. And it had been difficult with my mom, I'll say my whole life, which I've come to realize instead of thinking that I actually had a closer relationship with her than I thought I actually did when I started understanding scapegoating and started to recognize that that scapegoating had occurred at a younger age than I thought it had. So my perceptions of earlier times in my life changed.
Okay, no. We're going to summarize and reword this. Karen thought she was close with her mom all the way into her 40s.
Yep.
And then she got educated,
Yep.
and her perceptions did not change. Her understanding
Oh, that's a good,
shifted,
yes.
which she could look back on her life and go, oh, mom was using me as a scapegoat. I was the punching bag in the family, but
Yep.
she knew how to bolster my ego and subtly set me up to be her puppet.
Yes.
And then with that knowledge, with that growing self-esteem of yours, because you were doing your work, you decided, okay, no contact is the healthiest thing because she's a raging narcissist. I'm going to temper my words here. So last 10 years were very little contact. And I say that because intent had been no contact for a while, and then some health things happened and you made some decisions because of other family members. And so by the time she died, there was a very distant relationship because there were healthy boundaries in place protecting both of you.
Yes. And I had tried many times.
No. Don't.
Oh.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. We're still going to do a healthy podcast. We're not going to talk about how much effort you put into this. We're not going to talk about...
Let's get back to the psychic fair.
Go to the psychic fair for the listeners.
So I wanted to check in on my mom. I did not want to ask you.
I appreciate that.
I didn't want to ask you as another psychic medium to see how she was doing. And I wanted some other things because I've lost 2 sisters to death. I've lost another relationship with another sister to no contact. I've lost many relationships with siblings to no contact. I've lost a brother to death. So there's been a lot of loss, as everyone's listening or hearing, some to death and some to no contact. And so anyway, so I thought I'm going to go there for that reason. I went there for another reason. I also went there because I wanted to learn and see how other psychic mediums spoke to their client at the beginning of a session.
So market research.
Yes, because we have a consent process that we go through. And I didn't know if other psychic mediums did or didn't. And I thought it would be a good experience to go and have a few sessions. So I booked 3. I went and saw 3 psychic mediums. And I wanted to see what did they do at the beginning of a session. I also wanted to walk around the psychic fair. And I was hoping that it was going to be really busy so I could just listen to other people's conversations. Just as you're walking around to see what their comments were about their sessions. What did they like? What didn't they like? What did they find valuable? What were the things that stuck out? And again, so I'm just trying to learn more about what I do. So I went with several intentions. And I was hoping...
Okay, I'm stuck. I would not say learn more about what you do. I would say learn more about people's reaction to what you do.
Oh, yeah.
And learn how others conduct themselves.
Yes.
Because learning more about what you do happens in your actual channeling, in your active meditations, in your sleep and dreams, your walks, right? Like it was market research more than anything.
Yes. So I went with those intentions, and there was this psychic medium that I had seen 15 years ago here when he had come to North Bay. And I really was hoping that I would get to see him again because the things he had told me 15 years ago had all been accurate. And so I went to the psychic fair. I went out to the Best Western. I paid my fee. And I decided that I was going to walk in and that I wasn't going to look for him as a person. And actually, to tell you the truth, I couldn't remember much what he looked like. But I knew his name. And I thought, I'm just going to walk in and let my guides pull me in a particular direction, and I'm just going to go there first. So as I walked in, I get pulled to go to a sharp left-hand turn, and to go straight, I'm told. He's sitting right there. So I kind of chuckled as soon as I saw him in that position. Go ahead.
I would just like to say that based on other market research for retail, that is actually the opposite direction that people get pulled.
Really?
Yep. So there's a flow chart to how people go in when they're retail shopping, and it's often to the right and to the back.
Oh, seriously? Okay. Well, thank you for pointing that out. My guide said you're going to make a sharp left-hand turn and you're going to walk straight. And whoever is standing right in front of you, when you stop, that's who you're going to see. And it was him. So he had a client with him, so I wrote my name down in his book, and I noticed that he doesn't have times. So I found out later that it isn't a 1 o'clock, a 2 o'clock, a 3 o'clock, or whatever. He doesn't book like that. He just does your reading till he's done. And whatever information comes in, you get, and that's it. There's no, and I don't mean like that he cuts you off. And I thought that was interesting. He never cut me off when I actually had my reading with him. He lets you ask questions and stuff. And I don't really know when he decides that he's done, unless he says they just have all pulled away from me and your session is over. And I don't know if that also matches up with, and do you have any more questions? I know I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that because I find that there are a lot of some clients who will go to the very end of a session and then say they're going to start asking their questions. Mm-hmm. And they want to open at the beginning. But when you're done, the hour or the 90 minutes, then they want to begin.
Okay, so I'm confused. You had a session with him.
Yes.
It obviously ended.
Yes.
How did it end?
I found it ended when I was done asking questions and he said he was finished, which worked fine for me. I mean, I was prepared for what I wanted. And
but did you say, like, those are all the questions that I came with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was interesting for me to note how he chose to do that. But okay, so I'll just go back a step. I had to wait because he had a client with him, and I didn't know how long he would be. As I said, there were no times on his paper, and the guide said to me, "There's a woman 2 down. Why don't you go see her?" So I got up and I went two people down, and it was a female, and I booked an appointment with her, and she was free immediately. I sat down and she pulled out a tarot card deck, and
advertised how?
You know what, Kelly? I thought and I want to be careful. I thought I saw her sign saying psychic medium, but it could very well be my mistake that I didn't read down the list because some of them had like 20 things written down, like tarot cards, angel readings, crystals, like they had a number of things. So I want to be careful that I don't say, like I was surprised it was a tarot reading, but she might very well go, well, that's not fair. It was written on my damn sign.
Yeah, that's right.
That's on you, lady. So that could very well have been on me.
Okay, so how'd you feel?
When she took out the tarot cards? Mm-hmm. At first I felt a disappointment, but I don't really know why. I just did, but I can't explain why, because I've had tarot card readings in the past. I've enjoyed them. I have found them beneficial. I don't have a dark past with them or anything. And I haven't tried to read them myself and failed and then feel that they're just no good. Like, I just don't have any bad feelings whatsoever. So I don't really know why I felt that way.
I think that's really cool because some people will book with one of us and be like, well, do you do tarot? And we're like, oh, no, we don't. We don't use any instruments. And they're disappointed.
Yes.
Right. And that fascinates me.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, have you had such a great experience in the past that you were hoping or you feel attached to this medium, right? So to hear I would have been disappointed as well. So it's neat to reflect on like, oh, where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't know if I had preconceived ideas that she was just going to do or be something else.
See, okay, I think it's really interesting. I don't have to weigh in because this was your psychic experience.
Oh, cool.
This is judgmental, just prefacing this, okay?
Yeah.
When I see someone say psychic,
Yeah.
and then they pull up cards, I think, oh, you're not a psychic. You're learning how to read tarot cards. There's a method to this. There's an equation. I have no equation when I sit down to channel for someone. So to me, the instrument says what's going on. The cards have, taken that energy or whatever and illustrated what you, the interpreter, are saying. To me, that wasn't psychic abilities, and that's where my disappointment comes from. And then I've seen other people who do tarot cards who flip a card and then they'll go, oh, and I'm getting more stuff about this just a second. So it's like, oh, interesting. I wonder if there's some people who flow in and out of it, who have a little bit of more psychic abilities, or some people just rely on the cards themselves. I don't know.
Yeah, she did both. So this person...
How well?
Well, she did... I'm just going to say she did both at first. So she had me clear the deck. She shuffled the deck. She asked me a question. Then she turned the cards. She put so many cards down.
She asked you a question?
Yeah, like something about like, what do you want or what is your intention? And then she turned the cards over and there were several cards down. And she had them like grouped and like in a pattern from left to right, 2 rows. And then periodically, if I did ask her a question, she would shuffle the deck, take a couple of cards out, and I don't know how. There must be a pattern or maybe an intuition to it. I don't know. And she would turn them over, and then she would answer my question, and then she'd go back to the reading.
That makes no sense to me. Because if there are 6 cards on the deck with my original, or on the table with the original question, and now you're asking a second one, and she's only drawing from a deck with 6 less cards in it. Yeah. To me, it's like, well, what if there's a card on the table that also answers that question?
Yeah. This is all fair. I don't know enough, so I'm just gonna.
What's the point of this show? Help me out. I don't mean this rudely. I want to be mindful that my comments are on track with what you want to give to our audience today, instead of being tangential.
I wanted to share my experience of what I got as a psychic medium going to a psychic fair. And I've told several friends about it, or just said, when they said, hey, what'd you do on the weekend? And I said, oh, I went to a psychic fair. Every single one of my girlfriends went, what?
I will sip my coffee.
And every one of them went, oh my God, you've got to do a coffee with the Sarlos and just talk about it. That would be so cool to hear it.
I will sip my coffee.
I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear your experience. So I just thought, okay, and this would be, I think, I don't know if it's interesting to people. Hopefully they'll give us some feedback. So I'm just going to continue. And I wanted you to be able to offer your feedback and your thoughts as well.
Invite me then. I will let you have this show, and I will wait for an invitation.
No, you can ask questions and offer things. Like, I'm fine with that. And I think that the people listening can either enjoy listening to both of us, or they can tune one of us out.
It should probably be me.
No,
go ahead.
They might. Okay, so I asked her a question. And she shuffled it again and turned over more cards. And that particular question was about my mom. And all of the answer was wrong. And I say that because it was just factual. It wasn't a matter of opinion. How's that? So, and then she looked at me, she stopped, and I noticed that she stopped. And she kind of looked up at me because she hadn't been looking at me. And she said, "Is this accurate?" And I thought, oh, she's having one of those moments where she may be giving a message and she may be also channeling it, not just from the cards. And it isn't sitting well with her. And because I wasn't giving her any facial cues whatsoever, you could simply see, because her head had been down looking at the cards, that something didn't sit within her. And I sat and she said, "Can you tell me, like, if this is accurate about your mom?" And I said, "I can." I said, "Is it not sitting well with you?" And she went, "No." She says, I feel, it doesn't feel right. And I can't put my finger on it. Why? It's just a feeling." And I said, "Well, you're correct." I said, "It's entirely wrong." I said, it's what my mom would have wanted people, the public, to think of her. You've described her persona of what she wanted others in the world to believe. And I said, and she was so good at it, everybody did believe it. And she went, "Oh my God." She goes, "Thank you so much for telling me that." And I said, not many people, including my own family, would agree because they believed the persona too.
Okay. Without invitation, I'm going to offer a comment here. I'm sorry. I feel so heated about Angie. This is going to be really hard. I think that woman, the psychic medium that you're talking about, is very lucky that you have emotional regulation, self-observation, right? Emotional intelligence, because for other people who experienced what you experienced with their mother, for someone to sit down and say like, "Oh, you had a really close relationship and she's here with you all the time and you're really happy about it." That's what I'm hearing, because I know that was what the message was.
Yeah.
Someone who just justifiably so feels the level of rage at that could have easily been like, "You're wrong."
Yeah.
And been really upset and hurt and not necessarily had the wherewithal or the capacity, because those can be two different things, to say to her, you got her persona. You got the fakeness that she put out to the world. So you gave that woman some really beautiful validations, even though her message was 100% wrong. And I just think, she could have walked away, you could have walked away, and she could have been like, "Fuck, what am I doing at a psychic fair? I got that 100% wrong. Who am I? Imposter syndrome, etc." But because of your emotional regulation and emotional intelligence, you actually could give her validation.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal to me.
Oh. And then honestly, then Kelly, the rest of the session and the cards and everything was spot on.
After that got clarified.
Yep. She did a great job. She talked about my past, she talked about the present, and she gave me information for future, which of course I can't validate yet, but that's totally fine. That's what I'm asking for. So when I say she's accurate, she can only be accurate based on the past and what I know of my present. So she did a great job.
Okay, so for anyone who's just tuning in, who hasn't been with us for 400 episodes, what Karen means by that is, because she got information about the past and the present that she could confirm, somewhere in our brains, us being people, we're doing a formula to go, okay, if there was this much percentage of accuracy for the past and the present information, then, or therefore, I can trust what she's saying, or I likely can trust what she's saying about the future, right? Because had she still got incorrect information about the past and present, or, a 50-50 shot, you might have walked away and been like, and kind of discarded the future stuff, right?
Yeah.
So math is happening, probability is happening in your head when you're receiving this kind of information.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not judging her accuracy on what she tells me about my future, like what you're saying,
Right.
because we can't. And I know that other people have done that and said things to me, like in the session, like, "I don't think you're right about any of that."
Oh, please. Okay, so case in point, if someone had said to me 1 year ago, "Hey, Kelly, you're going to end up with a woman. Your partner's actually a woman," I'd be like, "You're really bad at your psychic job."
Right.
And that's coming from a psychic.
Or that you're going to be a stepmom.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would have said no fucking way.
Yeah, no, you can't sit with a psychic, decide what you want for your future, and then when they tell you psychic future information, decide that they're wrong.
That's right. No, you have to sit there and listen to all of it and take it in and write it down or record it or whatever it is that you're going to do. Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. So, I finished my session with her, and then I went back to the first gentleman that I went there to see, and at the very beginning of the session.
How did it happen? How did he get in contact with you? There's no time limits. How did you know it was
he
your
was
time?
a couple of people behind. So once I finished, I stood up and I just walked around, and I waited for his client to leave, and I approached him and said, I noticed that your client has left. Do you need a break? And he said, actually, I need to go to the washroom and I'd like to get a drink and I'd like to get some water and stuff. I would like a break. And I said, okay, fine. What would you like? And I'll meet you back here at your workstation, whenever you want. And he said, I'd like 10 to 15 minutes. Why? How about when you see me sit in the chair, then you know I'm ready for you. And I said, sure, because that gives him also opportunity to move around his space and get himself ready. So I sat down beside him when he sat in his chair, and he was quiet. He said nothing for the first 10 minutes. Nothing.
Okay.
Like nothing.
Okay, so for anyone who has seen Karen or I, because we can't speak about other people,
Yeah.
That's a fucking eternity. Like
Yep.
one minute is an eternity.
Yep.
So that's, and I remember you coming home and saying like, you might not like him. Like he's very slow.
Yep. And he's very slow in even how he says his messages. He slows his sentences down. Like he's not fast. And I remember when he was talking, thinking about John Edward. And if you've ever seen John Edward on TV or as live, he talks a lot about it. He talks so fast. He gives me anxiety. Like it's crazy fast. Now, mind you, maybe years later he has slowed down. I don't know, but this gentleman's energy is very peaceful, and I sat in his energy, and I noticed that after a minute or two, he was not in a rush to speak, and that he would look at me, and then he'd look around the room, and that he was not uncomfortable, that he was not talking, and that I was paying for the 10 minutes, and that he was not giving me anything in the 10 minutes. Nothing. And not once did I sit there in that 10 minutes and think, what the hell is he doing?
You're so much kinder than me. I sit in the therapist's office and I'm like, dude, like you've been saying the same thing 3 times and I just paid for that 5 minutes. Like, could you fucking move on?
Oh my God. No, I did not think that at all. Anyway, I sat there and thought, he's doing what he needs to do.
Yeah.
He's processing. I don't know if it's that I'm the one that's responsible that he isn't getting the information.
Or is it the fact that you have 32 family members?
Yes. And that he's got so many people that have crossed over that I'm hoping that are going to come through today. And like he could be sorting and organizing there. And I just thought, no, I wouldn't go into a doctor's office. And if the doctor was quiet for 10 minutes, say, I'm paying for your service. Let's go. Chop, chop.
Oh, we are 2 different people.
I wouldn't do that. I would let the physician gather their information. I would let them do what they need to do and then show up for me. Now, once they show up for me, I do expect them to do their job, but I sat with him in those 10 minutes and I thought, oh, I'm just going to sit here. And actually, Kelly, something else that went through my head was during that 10 minutes, I don't know how the fuck he does this. There must have been 15 psychics in that room.
Yeah.
And there were like, I don't know how all of those people getting all of that information can sort that they're just getting the direct line while everybody else's information is floating in the space of that same room in terms of space. And with mirror touch synesthesia, and I don't know if he has that or not, but I would also be picking up everybody else's pain, trying to figure out whose pain is whose, and if I've got the person right beside me or the person that's 2 feet away from me. So I really had a lot of compassion for all of the people in that room working. And for all of the people in the room that were trying to get their readings and their connections, because they're hoping that they're going to pick the right intuitive that's going to read their energy. And yet there could be a psychic one over or two over that are getting all kinds of information about them saying, you should have seen me.
Yep.
I got your information. So I thought that this was such a cool experience. So I just sat beside him. And then when he started, he said, you have a mom that's passed, a dad, a brother, and two sisters. And I went,
Well done, sir.
I said, yes, I do. And he said, and your family's not close. Like, they're all separate. And actually, all three mediums told me that my family wanted to look like it was a close family, but it wasn't. And that as much as they came together for family events and stuff, that they didn't have an emotional closeness to each other, and that there were lots of struggles within the family. And he told me that one of my sisters had taken her life, and I said that was correct. And then he also gave me information about past, present, and future. He gave me information about you and your current partner. He told me about your past relationship as well. He told me about Andrew, your brother, and some things about his life as well, about my past marriage, about what else? Another person that I had cared about and what had happened there, and that it never worked, like that it never came to pass. And that was all true. He was excellent. He was really good. And then at the end of the session, he said to me, okay, at the beginning when we were quiet, and I said, yes. He goes, and I didn't talk? And I said, yes. He goes, well, he says, I wasn't trying to hit on you. He said, I was quiet because I really liked your energy, but I didn't know how to tell you. And he said, and I didn't want to come off cheesy, and I didn't want to come off in the wrong way. And he said, but you were like so open, it's so easy to read you. And he said, and there was so much information coming through that I had to ask them to organize it. He said, because you're so open. And then he says, now it's the end of the session. And he goes, and the guides are telling me that I have to ask you what you do for a living. And he said, because they're telling me that you're very intuitive, and they're kind of giggling, and it seems to be a joke in the spirit world, and they're pulling a fast one on me. And he said, so I need to know. Plus, he says, I love your energy, so I just need to know what you do. And I said, I'm a psychic medium, and I do medical intuitive, and I've done search and rescue. And he went, what?
Okay, one of millions of reasons I love the spirit world, where they can give you all the information that he just got, but withhold this one key piece that allows you to stay out of your own way.
Yes.
Because had she sat down and he was like, oh, she's a psychic medium, it's immediately like, oh, gosh, okay, I'm performing for another one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that they'll be like, okay, we're going to save this piece for later.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
He did that to all three psychic mediums, and all three of them asked me at the end.
Who's he?
Spirit world.
Presumptuous, but okay.
I don't know why I said that. The spirit world did that to all three psychic mediums, and all three of them asked me at the end of the session what I did for a living, all of them. So then he said to me afterwards, he said, you have wonderful energy and they can't say enough about you. Do you need a job? Would you like to work here?
Cool.
Would you like to travel with us? And I said, no. I said that I wouldn't be able to do that with that many people in one room, and that I also had mirror touch synesthesia, which meant that I feel other people's pain, not as an empath, but physically in my brain and in my body, and it's overwhelming, and that I couldn't do that all day, every day. I think it would make me quite sick, actually, and very burnt out fast. So anyway, he just said, did you need anything else? And I said something to him about, I said, I wanted to see 3 today. And I said, who would you recommend? And he goes, that guy right there.
You asked for your sister. And he said, no, you want a medium, go see this guy.
Yes.
My strong suit is psychic.
That's right.
And I'm bringing this up on purpose because I really
forgot that.
I love the integrity.
Right.
where he'll say like, I'm excellent at this specific intuitive gift. And I know this other person who is excellent at a different one you're asking for.
Yeah.
And we've done that as well, right? I've said to people, time, like future time and deadlines, not my thing. If you're asking when the job is coming, if you're asking when the person is coming, I'm not your person. And I have no shame in saying that, right? So I think that was really cool to see the level of integrity and community as well.
Yeah, I suck at finding missing things, but can find missing people. I suck at being able to say you're going to have a girl or a boy, but I'm good at saying you can get pregnant, you need IVF,
The medical.
you can't have children, they will be healthy, they won't be healthy, you'll be healthy, you won't be healthy. I'm really good at the medical intuitive stuff, but I'm not good at will it be a girl or a boy, and will they transgender, or will they be of a certain sexuality or have a certain sexual preference. And it's good to know what you're good at and what you're not good at.
In life in general, people. In case you need a life coach to digest that message.
Yeah. And I think it frees you up. So it frees up your energy, that as soon as you say, I'm not good at that, and the person goes, oh, okay, and then they let it go, then it frees up their energy as a client and mine to be able to go, what can I do for you? And then you're fully 100% engaged in being able to give what you can give.
Yeah, but that only comes with confidence and self-esteem, right?
Yes.
Because when you say, oh, I'm not good at something, and you fixate on it, that's not healthy. If you can say, oh, I'm not great at that, but this is my specialty. How can I give you my specialty? That helps both parties or all parties focus on the strength.
Yeah.
And they can get that other need met elsewhere.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. So I went to the third person, and it was a gentleman, and he said to me, what are you looking for? And I said, medium. And I said, and how would you like to do it? Like, what's your preference? And he goes, well, what do you mean? I'm just going to do medium. And I said, well, do you want me to tell you who I want, or do you just get who you get? No, I just get who I get. You can't tell me who you want because I may not get them. He said, but I could get somebody else, and then I'm going to disappoint you that I can't get this person when I could get a different person. And I thought, oh, that's the exact opposite of me.
Yeah, same.
Like, he's the exact opposite. So I just sat there and thought, cool, this is how he works. Let's let him work. So he got my mom immediately at the very beginning of the session, and he talked about her personality on Earth. And he really was very attuned to not her persona, but to my relationship with my mom, and said, oh, this is your mom. She pulled the rug out from underneath you with all your relationships with all of your siblings. She triangled all of them so that they saw her in a good light and you not in a good light. She even said lies about you, and then once you confronted her about the lies that she told your siblings, she would not back down. And many of your siblings believed her lies instead of actually even listening to you. So he was able to really explain the dynamics of the relationship. And I really appreciate that, because that's the thing that I know, or one of the things that I value the most in doing a session for other people. I don't want to say brown hair and blue eyes. I want to say the types of things like what he said to me. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that was my kind of message from him, because that's what I value the most. And he was making that beautiful connection that this is what she needs. She needs to be able to be validated that, in fact, from a true stranger, that this is what her mother did. Mm-hmm. Because she's not ever going to get those validations from her siblings. Mm-hmm. And she may not get them even from anybody in the community that knows her mom, because they know the persona of her and their personal relationships with her, not the one that I had with my mother.
I have a question.
Yeah.
On behalf of listeners, but also for listeners. You know, factually, mm-hmm. from a psychological standpoint, how unhealthy she was, exactly what it is she was doing, the language, the vocabulary for what it was she was doing to strategize all these years,
Yep.
all the language for narcissism, etc. So even with all of your factual knowledge of your mother, why was it important for you to hear it from a psychic?
It was important for me to hear it from the psychic, to know that my mother is now aware of what she did. I went to hear it from him because he is the only voice she has for me to hear it with my human ears.
Cool.
My mother has come in since she's passed and spoken to me as a psychic, as a medium, and has said to me, I'm working on this, and I know she is. And yeah, I still got my own validation from that. I went to the psychic fair to hear it from another person.
Cool. I want people to hear that because I think for some people, they might sit here and go, well, why did you have to go to hear it from a psychic? Like, why would you undermine your own knowledge? You knew exactly what it was. It's still so important for all of us, us psychics included, with our background in psychology, to hear from the spirit world.
Yeah.
The connection is still important.
Yeah, it was gratifying. It was affirming. It did a lot to help me heal. And the healing can happen in cellular levels when you hear the truth. It can happen psychologically. It can happen emotionally. It can happen in my liver. It can be a release out of my hips with anger. It can be a variety of things because humans are so complex. And I can hear it more than once, and I probably still need to hear it more than once. And I know that I do. I've heard it from you. I've heard it from my son. I have heard it from my girlfriends who've known my mom since they were 12 years old. The truth, they saw the truth. They saw how she actually treated me. I've heard the truth from friends who've known my mom for 50 years. But you can still need to hear the truth to heal on different levels and to release it out of your body in all of those levels.
Yeah, and I think, we're talking about something hard, right? And I would kind of draw a parallel to, I've heard once in my life early on that you love me. And I've heard many people in my life tell me that my mom loves me, and I still need to hear it again, right? So I want people to understand that our messages aren't one and done. We need to hear it more than once. We need to hear it from the source itself, too. It's not enough for other people to say that your mom loved you, or your mom was sorry, or whatnot. You need to hear it from them.
Yeah.
And once they've passed, this is the opportunity.
Yeah. Like, I know that it's called disenfranchised grief. When you are experiencing grief over a person who treated you badly. So this is someone who scapegoated me. And as a result of being scapegoated, I have the grief, multiple layers of grief, of losing siblings emotionally, and being there in my life, and me being able to be there for them in the ways that I wanted to be able to love them. And so the disenfranchised grief comes when you can't be there for those people, or they can't be there for you, but you don't really know how to process that grieving because they're not dead. So I know that I have disenfranchised grief. I know that it takes a different kind of process to go through than the grieving of somebody where a mother had not done those things to me, and I hadn't had my relationships with all my siblings affected like this, and a marriage, and all kinds of other things in my life. So, I mean, that's why I said there's healing on multiple levels, and that you need to hear it multiple times.
Yeah. And you know what, I'll also equate it, it's very different, but just kind of to draw the parallel here, your first marriage ends, I'm just saying this as an example, and you have moved on, but there's a part of you that wants to know, like, they got it. They understood their responsibility in the demise of the marriage, right? And you don't want them back. You're not necessarily looking for a do-over or anything like that. You just want to know that they understood, that they're now taking responsibility and seeing the effects of things, right? Even though they've moved on to another relationship or something like that. it's the same situation when our loved one passes in this kind of a dynamic where it's like, okay, they abused the shit out of me and others, destroyed a ton of my relationships or the opportunity for me to have these relationships. I'm not looking to get them back. It's not a longing for that, limerent relationship with a mother.
Yep.
It's, I want to hear that they've passed and that they're getting it, that they have to actually deal with the consequences of what they've done.
Yeah, because there's understanding it, and then there's feeling remorse and regret.
It's connection.
That's right. And what I heard from the 3 psychics at the psychic fair, that my mom had no remorse and no regret yet, and that she was simply at the very beginning of her understandings, and that she would be back later at some other point in life if I was to go back and see a medium again, or she might just come into my living room and tell me, for instance, but that currently she was just at the very beginning. Now, my mom passed in November, and this is April. So she's just in her process of her understandings of her life.
Which I think is fascinating because time is not the same for us as it is for them. Some people will come the day after their person passes or while their person is passing, and we're channeling them going, oh, they're going to the other side and they're actually doing a life review, seeing everything. They get it. They're sorry. They're this. And it's like what feels instant to us.
Yeah.
I can laugh and think like, yeah, Angie was super childlike, right? Like she was
Yeah,
so,
she was.
I was going to say thick, and that's not how I want to articulate this. She was so immature. She was so stunted in her growth that it also, begs the question like, okay, that was her human experience this time around. How much of a soul contract of trauma did she carry from other lifetimes?
That's right.
To need this much time to process the damage.
Yeah.
So it's all fascinating to me in the process. So I thank you for articulating like why you went and what that does for you. Because I think some people don't book those sessions because they're like, well, she was mean. Why would I even want to hear from her? Well, case in point.
Exactly. And he went on to talk about some of my other siblings that have crossed over, that have died, and their awareness around the triangulation that had occurred in the family, and them going through their own healing process when each of them passed over. So I have a brother that's passed over years ago that is, his energy was light, his energy was different. He was in a place of, got it all, I understand it all, that kind of thing. I have a sister who passed about a year and a half ago, and she's moved through quite a bit. And then I have a sister who passed just like a year ago, and she's moving through a process at her speed. So the comments from the medium about where each of them were just in a little bit different places.
But notably, nowhere near your mother.
That's correct.
None of them wanted to rejoin her.
Yes, he did say that too. He said your siblings and your father are nowhere near your mother. She's by her, I don't mean by herself, meaning alone, lonely. I don't mean that, because you're surrounded by so many beautiful beings that help you understand, and with full compassion, and they help you that you don't go into shame. I know my mom is being well loved, and I'm glad. I am so happy for her that she is being well loved, because in order to be a person that did some of the things that she did to me, not necessarily to other people, but to me, I know that means that she was in a lot of pain. I know that means that she had her own trauma and that she had her own suffering in order to behave that way. I'm grateful that my mom is moving past all of that now. So I also went to hear that she's moving past it and that she's being loved, even though I know. I still wanted to hear it.
Cool. Anything else from your psychic fair experience?
Yeah, at the end of that, the last gentleman said to me, okay, I need to ask you what you do for a living. He said, the guides are telling me that you're intuitive and I'm supposed to ask, but I don't know what you do. And so I said, and I told him. And then he goes, what? You find missing people? I want to find missing people. He goes, wait a second. Can I ask you some questions? Are you in a rush? And I said, no, I'm not in a rush. He goes, I don't have anybody booked. Could you stay and chat with me for a while? I went to go into a course, and he said, and the person who's teaching the course told me that if you're a psychic, or if you're a medium, you'll never be able to find missing people. And I said, ooh, I think somebody lied to you. I said, that's not true at all. And I said, as a matter of fact, I said, why wouldn't that be your best advantage for all of the missing people who are dead? Because there are missing people who are alive and there are missing people who are dead. And we connect to both types of people. Well, I guess
all soul.
It's all souls. So if you're going to say in a career you're going to have 100 missing people you'll find, and 90% of them are dead, then you can connect to 90% of your clients like that. So why wouldn't you have an advantage over somebody that doesn't even have that kind of a gift? And he said, oh, that's a good way to look at that. And I said, it is. And then we had a conversation around why you would want to find missing people and the pros and cons of being involved in that career. And he was disappointed to hear that people don't want to pay you, won't pay you, tell you they'll pay you and then don't appreciate you, think that you're lying, think that if you are the person that gives the correct information and they find the body, that you are the prime suspect for murder, or the prime suspect that contributed to their death in some way. Like, he was shocked when I told him the different experiences you and I have had.
Okay, sidebar. There have been 2 cases where it was the exact opposite, where the family was kind and warm and loving.
Yes.
And I just want to acknowledge it because they're on our social media and they were rock stars.
Oh, totally.
Worked with us. Like, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
As wonderful as it can be finding a missing person. But 99.9% are what you're talking about.
That's why the answer was 99.9%, that it's so difficult to do it. It's so difficult because, first of all, because you're just not even getting paid to do it. And that there is very little gratitude for it, any cooperation to do it. You're basically, sometimes I've given information and spent 5 or 6 days helping somebody, giving all the correct information, finding out it's right, and then finding out they never actually shared it with anybody.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, yeah, anyway, we could get into a long list of the reasons it's terrible, but that's really neat. So you guys kind of shared information about what it's like to experience the gifts, kind of warned them, helped them understand.
And we did talk about the fact that there will be people that will be grateful.
Yeah.
That there will be those people too. I know you jumped ahead and said, that you wanted to defend some people that are very appreciative, and that's good. But we did talk about that. We did talk about how gratifying it is to use your gifts and to remote view. Mm-hmm. And he asked who teaches remote viewing, if you can get certified. And then if you're certified, do the police actually want to work with you? There were lots of things to discuss, and some of them I didn't have an answer for. Mm-hmm. Some of them I just had to say, I don't actually know, because I haven't had a police department call to say, do you have certification? I didn't have that. I typically worked more with the families than the police department. Mostly. So, Kelly, it was a great day. And I'm really glad that I went, and I would absolutely go again. And I would do the very same thing, to walk in and to just let myself be pulled by the spirit guides to the right people to go to. Because it was, other than him referring me to the last person, being pulled in the right direction for the first 2, I think was very good. And that I really enjoyed that. And hopefully that the people that did the readings for me felt that it was easy to read the energy, and that they didn't feel stuck or start and stop, like that kind of thing in the session. I didn't notice any of the 3 of them doing that, other than the incidents that I told you about.
Mm-hmm. So as a psychic medium, you're allowing yourself to be pulled in the right direction. So for listeners, if they're going to a psychic fair because they're hearing that you had a great experience, who don't necessarily feel connected to what you're calling the pull, how would you recommend they walk into a psychic fair?
Well, I guess some of them would go in pardon me, that's not what you asked me. You asked me how I would suggest people go in. I think they should go in and just use their own intuition and just by what they feel. If it's not in a direction, then if they look at a person and just have a feeling that they feel connected to that person, they like their energy, if they go over to the table, if they stand in that area and feel like they want to be there, feel comfortable. And I know that still can be hard because some people are going to say, I can't be comfortable, I'm too nervous. So I realize that's a hard thing to tell them. I don't know. Do you have any suggestions? I feel a little bit stuck telling them how they should pick a person in a psychic fair.
Okay, so if there's no right or wrong answer, I just want to say this. First of all, I think what I would suggest is knowing what you want going into it, right? I think a lot of people, while it can sound great and noble to say like, oh, I'm just going to go and be open, when you go to a psychic event, like kind of identify what you're open to. Are you open to cards? Are you open to not cards? Are you open to the types of readings? That might be what you want to explore. If you know that you have a specific message that you're looking for or person that you're looking for, have that at the top of your mind so that when you're choosing someone, you're choosing them accordingly.
Yeah.
And when you sit down and you ask them similar things like, am I allowed to ask questions or do you just, do your thing? That's a great way to know, am I going to be set up for an enjoyable experience or not? Because if you're used to someone like us where you can ask all the questions and you sit down in front of someone and they say, oh, no, I don't do questions, then at least you have an understanding of, do I want to stay? Do I want to engage? Do I want to pay? Etc. Right? So like kind of have an idea of what you really are open to and willing to do or need to do for yourself. I think getting clear on what you want first is a lot more beneficial than walking in and just being like, well, we'll see how this goes.
Or walking in and thinking, I'm just here to see if they're any good and testing them. I didn't have any kind of intention to test to see who was good. I was there to get my own needs met.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like we're talking about walking in with integrity to get your needs met, not to disrupt another person's day.
So, Kelly, I went with the intention to connect, and I got connection. I went to go and get some relief, and I got a ton. It's mostly an emotional experience, I would say. And I went for that, and I got it. I got it from all three people, and I'm so grateful to each of the three that they use their gifts and abilities and that they can stand being in a big room together like that to do that. I have to give them so much credit. I can't imagine how hard it is. But I'm glad that for whatever reason, these people can do it and travel and make it convenient to go to a city to say, we're here for you. Like, I think that's really incredible. So I really enjoyed my experience.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for listening to Coffee with the Sarlos. If you enjoyed the show today, please be sure to subscribe on your podcast platform and leave a review. New shows will air every other Saturday.